In the 1980s, the city of Melbourne wrestled with a growing challenge from organised crime. At the centre of this volatile environment was Dennis Bruce Allen. As the eldest son of the notorious Pettingill family matriarch, Allen rapidly ascended to a position of dark prominence. He managed a major regional network dealing in prohibited substances and was widely reported to use extreme violence. This earned him a feared reputation and a chilling nickname, Mr. Death. Dennis Bruce Allen was born in the inner-city Melbourne suburb of Carlton on November 7, 1951. His family life was deeply interconnected with the criminal subculture of the city. He was the child of Kath Pettingill, a figure who would become recognized as the matriarch of a family with a long-documented history of involvement in unlawful activities. The Pettingill family's criminal history was extensive, covering theft, various street-level crimes, and eventually expanding into more organized illegal enterprises. This demanding environment provided Allen with a specific, informal training in criminal behavior, conflict management, and resource acquisition within the city's underbelly. His base of operation in inner suburban areas like Richmond became a fixture of the local criminal landscape. The infrastructure of these inner suburbs, characterized by closely knit communities and a degree of anonymity within their density, provided an ideal breeding ground for maintaining criminal operations out of the immediate public eye. This inherent structure of inner-city life often made traditional surveillance and intelligence gathering exceptionally difficult for authorities attempting to monitor family-centric criminal groups like the Pettingills. Allen's own involvement in severe criminal activities began to escalate rapidly during the early 1970s. This period established his reputation for impulsive and extreme violence before his major illicit market operations began. A documented instance of this volatile behavior occurred in late 1973 when Allen discharged a firearm during an altercation at a private function, resulting in the non-fatal shooting of guitarist Chris Stockley, a member of the Australian band The Dingoes. This early act of violence foreshadowed his later ruthlessness. Allen's early criminal actions resulted in a significant legal consequence. He was convicted for a serious violent sexual offense and subsequently received a 10-year prison sentence around the same time as the Stockley incident. This decade-long term underscores the gravity of his early criminal conduct and his proven capacity for violence. It also marked a definitive moment where Allen transitioned from smaller crime to actions that drew significant attention from the Victorian judicial system. He served approximately 5 years of the total sentence before his release in the late 1970s. Rather than acting as a deterrent, this period of incarceration appears to have served a different purpose. It exposed Allen to a sophisticated network of contacts within the correctional system and sharpened his knowledge of criminal organization and operational security. His time inside allowed him to cultivate relationships that would prove valuable upon his release, setting the foundation for his future large-scale illicit market operation. Following his release, Allen recognized the vast potential for financial gain in the area of prohibited substances. He made a strategic shift, dedicating his considerable organizational and aggressive tendencies toward establishing a large-scale operation for the distribution of these prohibited substances. This move was the catalyst for his rapid ascent within Melbourne's criminal ranks. The global rise of certain illicit markets in the late 70s created a new, highly liquid market that offered exponentially greater returns than traditional crimes like theft or bookmaking. Allen recognized this economic shift and exploited it ruthlessly. By the early 1980s, Dennis Allen had become a dominant supplier in the illicit market in Melbourne. His core operation was centered in Richmond, but his distribution network supplied prohibited substances that was believed to reach areas like South Yarra, accessing a broad base of clientele. The strategic choice of these areas was deliberate. Richmond provided the necessary street-level network and concealment, while the supply lines to more affluent areas ensured high profitability. Allen used his profits to acquire properties and assets across inner Melbourne. The financial scope of his enterprise was widely reported to be substantial. This vast capital was crucial. It financed a protected criminal existence, secured his operational infrastructure, and fundamentally paid for the silence and compliance of his associates. The handling of this cash flow itself required a sophisticated network of money management and distribution, further cementing Allen's position not merely as a street dealer, but as a genuine organized crime boss. A key element of Allen's longevity and success in avoiding effective long-term prosecution was the widely acknowledged corruption and systemic challenges present within certain sectors of the Victorian police force during this era. Investigations later revealed that Allen was reportedly adept at navigating and exploiting these vulnerabilities. The sheer size of the illicit market money flowing into Melbourne created powerful temptations, leading to documented cases of police compromise that seriously hampered investigative efforts against major figures. Furthermore, multiple sources report Allen acted as a police informant, a role that provided him with additional leverage and protection. His criminal lawyer, Andrew Fraser, would later suggest that Allen possessed information, some of it allegedly pertaining to misconduct by police officers, which he could use to his advantage. This strategy reportedly ensured that serious investigations were often hampered or diverted, allowing him to maintain his operations with a disturbing level of confidence. This dynamic created a toxic operational environment for honest police officers, who often found their efforts to build cases undermined from within or without. This complex interaction with law enforcement is publicly documented in the case involving prohibited substance supply linked to Allen's operation and New South Wales Police Detective Sergeant Roger Rogerson. Rogerson faced charges for his involvement in supplying the substances, though he was later acquitted on appeal. This verified association highlights the grave nature of the systemic problems that enabled high-level criminal figures like Allen to thrive in Melbourne. The Rogerson matter was one of several incidents that brought the critical issue of police integrity to the forefront of Australian public consciousness during the 1980s, forcing necessary institutional reckoning. Allen's power was not just financial. It was enforced through fear and violence. He was alleged to be involved in numerous fatal incidents, often utilizing aggressive force as a means of control and intimidation within his business. This persistent, severe level of violence cemented his notorious reputation. The violence was instrumental in maintaining market stability, ensuring that rivals did not encroach on his territory and that his own distribution network remained strictly compliant. Police suspected he was involved in up to 13 unlawful killings, according to media summaries of investigations. These were suspicions rather than proven convictions. These were not random acts, but targeted incidents designed to eliminate rivals, enforce debts, or punish those who crossed his path. Though legal proof for all these allegations was not secured during his lifetime, the sheer scale of the incidents linked to him was shocking. The methodical nature of these incidents, according to investigators, suggested a highly organized and calculated application of force rather than random outbursts. One specific, documented action tied to Allen demonstrates the cold-blooded nature of his enforcement. This involved the homicide and disposition of Anton Kenny in 1985. Kenny was not a mere associate. He was an expelled former chapter president of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The details of the disposal of Kenny's body were exceptionally violent. According to witness accounts and later police reports, the victim was dismembered and placed in a drum. This high-profile incident was instrumental in cultivating fear across the city's criminal networks. This single event amplified the perception of Allen's ruthless nature and demonstrated his willingness to challenge even established organized crime figures in Australia's underbelly. Another incident that some believe Dennis Allen was a part of was the case of Victor Allard, which dates back to 1979, establishing an early pattern of violence aimed at informants. Allard was fatally shot 3 times in the stomach while walking along Fitzroy Street in St Kilda. Allard had reportedly begun cooperating with police, and critically, investigative reports indicate that Allen was with Allard at the time of the killing. This proximity placed Allen squarely as the prime suspect in Allard's murder, yet he was never formally charged. This incident, the violent elimination of an informant when Allen was still a young man, established a grim, defining pattern of ruthlessness. The case that cemented Allen's reputation for internal security was the disappearance of Wayne Stanhope in 1982. Stanhope was a key associate within Allen's rapidly growing illicit market network. He reportedly vanished entirely after a dispute with Allen regarding money, posing a financial and security risk to the operation. Stanhope's name was consistently included in the list of individuals police believed Allen was responsible for silencing, though no trace of him was ever discovered. This vanishing act is frequently cited as a terrifying example of Allen's willingness to erase associates, demonstrating the absolute, lethal scope of his control over anyone who threatened the stability of his criminal enterprise. Helga Wagnegg is a suspected victim whose life ended tragically within Dennis Allen's dangerous circle. The sources detailing her death are consistent in linking her to Allen, but they differ on the exact cause. While some reports suggest she died from a severe intentional overdose of prohibited substances, a common and convenient outcome in Allen's environment, other accounts allege she was intentionally killed by forceful drowning, possibly while intoxicated. The primary factor sustaining Allen's empire was the climate of fear he cultivated. Witnesses were effectively silenced, rivals were neutralized, and his associates understood the non-negotiable terms of loyalty and adherence. This pervasive intimidation significantly complicated the work of police and prosecutors, making the collection of independent, court-admissible evidence a persistent challenge. The simple truth was that few people were willing to risk the documented consequences of testifying against Dennis Allen. The numerous homicides linked to Allen created a sense that his territory was governed by his own brutal rules. This period of the 1980s, defined by the actions of figures like Allen, represented a severe crisis point in Melbourne's efforts to control organized crime, where the influence of violence and corruption often undermined the authority of the state. The judicial process itself struggled to adapt to the level of sophisticated criminal organization and the deliberate tactics used to obstruct justice. Despite his calculated evasion tactics, law enforcement agencies relentlessly worked to gather sufficient evidence against Allen. Through the sustained effort of dedicated police units, cases were painstakingly built against him. The sheer difficulty of securing witnesses and circumventing internal corruption meant that the cases took years to formally prepare and charge, requiring massive institutional commitment. By the late 1980s, the investigative net had finally secured him. Allen was arrested and confined to prison custody. The total number of charges he was facing at the time of his death was extensive, reflecting years of sustained, significant criminal activity. Contemporary reports state Allen was facing dozens of serious criminal charges at the time of his death. These charges encompassed the full spectrum of serious crime, including illicit substance trafficking and severe assault. While formal murder charges had not yet been filed, they were actively being prepared. The high volume of charges indicates the breadth of his criminal network and the determination of the legal system to finally bring him to account. Dennis Bruce Allen never stood trial for the prepared homicide cases. His life ended abruptly while he was being held in custody. Allen passed away at St. Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne on April 13, 1987. He was only 35 years old. The official determination of death was severe cardiac failure, which was attributed to the years of intense, sustained substance abuse that had severely compromised his health. He died in hospital while under police guard, where he was receiving care. The man who represented such a significant threat to life and order was ultimately overcome by the physical consequences of his own lifestyle. He died while his most serious charges were still pending, meaning that for the extensive list of unlawful killings and major criminal actions he was suspected of, Allen never received a judicial conviction. His passing in custody meant that the justice system was unable to formally conclude the numerous investigations tied to his name through legal process. Allen's death, while closing one chapter, did not erase the family's presence in the criminal landscape. His legacy of extreme violence and deep-seated criminal organization continued to cast a long shadow, forcing a critical re-evaluation of police integrity and crime management in the city for years to come. The detailed, documented criminal career of Dennis Allen serves as a crucial case study in the dynamics of organized crime in 1980s Melbourne. His success in maintaining a large-scale illicit substance distribution network demonstrates how vast financial resources could be leveraged to shield criminal operations from effective law enforcement. The sheer scale of the profits from the illicit market became the single most corrupting and enabling force in his operation. Allen's death created a significant power vacuum within the underworld, which became a flashpoint for other opportunistic criminal elements seeking control. The extreme methods and systemic weaknesses exposed during his reign, including the documented issues of corruption and the widespread intimidation of witnesses, established a dark benchmark for criminal conflict. These issues would later contribute to the escalation of tensions that manifested in subsequent periods of gangland conflicts in Melbourne, which later involved members of the Pettingill family in events such as the Walsh Street shootings. His operational model was, sadly, continued by others. The factual record of Dennis Bruce Allen's life is a stark account. A decade of high-level involvement in illicit markets, an exceptional number of suspected fatal incidents, and a life concluded by his own health failures while facing a mountain of serious legal charges. His story remains a pivotal and unsettling part of Melbourne's history, a documented example of the profound challenges faced by the city in controlling powerful, highly organized criminal elements. This challenge was exceptionally difficult and required years of significant and necessary reform. The ultimate tragedy is that a man suspected of orchestrating up to 13 murders never faced a jury. The justice system was denied its reckoning. The true cost of Allen's reign is not just counted in the vast, illicit wealth he amassed, but in the permanent silence of the victims whose cases went cold, swallowed by the corruption and intimidation he perfected. The Pettingill family's history is a wound on the city's conscience, and the shadow of Mr. Death is a chilling reminder of the years when Melbourne's streets were governed not by the rule of law, but by the absolute, lethal silence of fear.